how's things in Portland these days?
Pretty crazy.
How so?
It's, well, the unmarked DHS forces just started pulling people off the street. So there's a rogue federal police force running around arresting folks.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Man, that's fairly intense.
Yeah, I guess that they've Portland had a big problem with the protests, and Trump said either fix it or we're sending someone in. So they sent the DHS in with limitless powers right now. So they're just abducting people on the street.
I
It's
mean, I'm sitting here in New Zealand watching, the news and just it's just amazing to see it just keep happening. It's popping up left, right, and center all over the country. It's crazy.
yeah, it's a pretty weird time right now.
Yeah. And are you feeling safe?
I feel safe. Yeah, I'm not really going out. Um, feel COVID safe, I guess, and feel personally safe. But
Right.
I'm definitely on the luckier side of things. There's 53 million Americans without jobs, and
Right.
so many people are going to be homeless at the end of this month, or have 6 months of rent due. Otherwise, they
Right.
get evicted. And
Man, oh man. Well, hopefully things will improve eventually.
yeah,
November's coming, right?
can't come soon enough, man.
Exactly. Uh, and so you were here, speaking of November, you were here last November, right?
Yeah, yeah, for the month, did a big inter island tour.
Yeah. And the world obviously has changed quite a bit since then, but how has it changed for you?
Well, music is gone. I mean, any touring stuff. My bread and butter was always, New Zealand was one of the markets that I really loved when I first got down there in 2018. I just decided to make it a part of my regular schedule. And Europe was my other big market.
Right.
So, I mean, we're not, US is banned from Europe now, and I'd love to escape to New Zealand. I'm working with my my people down there to try and
Oh, good on you.
finagle something.
Well, I think you can get in but you have to take like a 2 week quarantine once you get here.
Yeah, I don't mind that. That's 2 weeks is nothing compared to
Yeah.
months of.
And they put you up at a pretty nice hotel and pay for everything, so it's not too bad.
Oh wow,
It's
2 weeks
actually
room
quite a
and board
vacation.
too.
So yeah.
Yeah,
So have you? Obviously, you've put an album out in the meantime.
yeah,
Um,
put a record out.
Little words. So was that in the plans when before all this happened, or did it happen because of it?
No, that was. I mean, I'm kind of on the pace of doing records once a year.
Right.
And yeah, we did that one in January, right, kind of before things got really wild. And then I'm sorry, I'm getting a little breakup here. And
Okay.
then yeah, then it was just kind of like, well, touring is, the things that I've heard from larger promoters is fall of 2021 is when the US is maybe going to start touring again. But the sad thing is all these little venues just aren't going to survive. They're never going to open
Sure.
up
Yeah.
at double the cost and half the capacity.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
in terms of putting this record out, I really don't. It didn't matter for me. I put it out. And a lot of people are holding on to records. They're banking them, but like, what what are you banking it for?
Yep.
Like,
Yep. You can't wait forever. And as a listener, it's a perfect time to have new music out because most of us have more spare time than we're used to.
yeah,
So.
totally. Yeah, I see you got a lot of records back there. So it's like,
Oh
you're
yeah.
used to playing new music all the time. So it's like anytime new music comes around, yeah, everyone's got time. So it's like it's been kind of an awesome thing to put this record out and kind of see, like, there's been some awesome love in New Zealand from
Oh good.
RNZ and Christchurch Radio as well, and Radio One Dunedin. I've gotten thrown on a lot of playlists, and all thanks to kind of the people that I work with down there,
Right. Right. Right.
agent and publicist.
So I know that you kind of concentrate on Europe and down here rather than in the States. Was that a conscious decision, or do you just kind of go with the flow?
Yeah, I toured in the States for a long time. I've been doing this in various capacities since like 2013,
Uh-huh.
and I just felt like, yeah, it was just felt like I was playing the same rooms and just not getting any traction. And then I was like, hey, why don't we go to Europe? This is crazy. Like people are going to Europe. And so I just, I think I sent out like 800 emails and got 12 shows my first
Right,
Europe tour. But got in with great people and was like, wow, you can actually do this. You can make a living doing this. And like, you can like, people will, offer decent guarantees. And, there's
right,
just like, I saw growth every time I went back.
right.
And to the point where we like sold out a couple rooms on this last tour. And then the same thing was kind of like after I finished that Europe tour, I was like, where should we go next? And then New Zealand came on the radar. And then, had one solo tour and then did this last one with the full band. And we saw a lot of awesome growth in cities that we'd been in. And yeah, it's just like, it's funny. It's a funny time to have everything kind of come to a screeching halt because it
Oh
was
man,
like,
it's got to be killer. I mean,
yeah, there's a
and
lot of stuff going on. I was supposed to be down. I actually had like a big run of shows coming in December through next year and like in New Zealand, and then I had a big fall tour in Europe, and
yeah.
everything is just kind of toast. But
Well, hopefully we'll be. I mean, at least things are. We have here at least live shows happening, but it's all local acts, obviously, because we can't get anybody
yeah,
in overseas. So at least we're out in the clubs a little bit and trying to support them. But yeah, we need more musicians here.
yeah. Well, I'm trying to get down there. So
Please
if
do.
things happen, you might find me knocking on your door sometime soon.
That's all right. Doors always open. So let's talk about the album a little bit, about little words.
Yeah,
When was it actually officially released? Because these days it's hard to tell.
it was released on May 15th.
Okay.
That was official, like kind of just get it out going. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was right in the middle of it. I mean, it's still in the middle of everything over there, but for us too, it was. So
Yeah, totally. I mean, it was just kind of like I wanted to get it. I wanted to put it out the minute after we finished it, in February, and I just, I held on to it for a little bit to do artwork and also a few other things that we do. And I have, this is the first time I had someone kind of working it at radio here, and we've been getting a
right,
lot of awesome radio play, getting tons of ads. So it's been really cool to see like that kind of growth happen here. So it's been
cool.
a
Yeah.
great record.
Now I read a quote in a bio or the press thing or whatever. It says that a lot of the music that's on this album was inspired by the tumultuous life that happened after the recording of Strangers. So I'm wondering if you can elaborate on that, if that is indeed the case.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I was sitting on the couch. I'm staying with a buddy here in Portland, and we were talking last night, and he's like, he paused for a moment. He's like, "When's the last time you like had a home?" I
Right,
haven't lived anywhere in a really long time, and when I went to do Strangers in New York, in I think that was 2018. That was like that was like right when I moved out of my house in Seattle, and I've just been like floating since. In between tours, I'd go either stay with friends or go stay with my folks or kind of just bounce around and make records
right,
and just do the music thing. And then also I work in the sort of, my first background is in visual arts. So sometimes I work in the photography world. So
right.
it's kind of a second passion. So that's kind of like, those things have all kind of kept me moving and on the road. And so yeah, life just kind of got very loose after that.
Yeah,
And purposefully, I was like, I don't want to pay rent. I want to be able to tour. I want to like take off for 3
right.
months. And like, so I would start kind of living in the places I would tour. Like I'd go to Europe and do a month of shows and then live there for 2 more months and then kind
Yeah.
of bounce around. So
It's good if it's a choice that you make to live like that, and then at least you feel like you're in control of your life a little bit. It's the people, I guess, who can't say that same thing is a problem for them.
yeah, it's an interesting, like, it's a very interesting feeling. Not that I'm in the place that a lot of other people are in, but as someone who's kind of been home averse for a long period of time and lived in vehicles and cars
Right.
and by choice, obviously, yeah, I'm not like in an economic circumstances where it's like, but I'm also like, yeah, I'm an artist and I'm trying to make a living, and it's really
Yeah.
hard to like live in these cities and do that. So, um, it's very it adds another level of stress on the daily just about where you're gonna do your basic things. And I
Okay.
think it's just kind of interesting perspective to like bring into life, because a lot of people are like really take home and comfort and food and hot meals and bathrooms and everything for granted.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
Yeah, well, these things are overrated. But it's interesting. I think that everybody's way of thinking about how they're going to get along and how they're going to do whatever it is that they need to do is being rethought after all this stuff that's going on, whether it's the pandemic or the protests or the politics of everything. But everything's happening at once, and it's causing everybody to kind of stop and reconsider things.
Yeah, it's definitely been an inflection point for a lot of people, and it's just like everything all at once, man. It's crazy. I don't. It,
Now, one of
it's
the
been a
songs
ride.
that I wanted to touch on was Switzerland because it kind of
Yeah,
feeds a little into what we were talking about. It's why don't we just move overseas, which is what I
yeah,
did. So,
yeah. That tune was one that was actually, so there's two songs that kind of were written prior to the rest of the tunes, and those were Even If in Switzerland, and those were kind of like tail end of the last record.
uh,
Kind of wrote them on it at the end of a European tour, and then sort of we went in. They were kind of sitting around the longest as sort of like, hey, these are going to be on the new record, but what else is going to be on it?
right,
And then everything else was written in a really short period of time, with kind of a cohesion in mind of those two tunes kind of setting the vibe, and with a really upbeat tune like Even If, and then sort of a more mellow cruiser like Switzerland.
right. And I'm glad you mentioned Even If because it's a tune that, as a listener, I'm thinking while I'm hearing it, is this a real story? Is this real life? Is this based on something? Is there more to it that I could possibly find out about? So, tell me if you.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a lot of the stuff I write about, it's like you take a moment or you take an idea, and then you sort of like sketch it out. So I think there is a ton of hyperbole and sort of a ton of like creation in a lot of the songs that I write. But generally they start from like a flash of emotion or a flash of a scene or something, and then I really try and flush it out. And as a writer, that's like the hardest thing to do, right? I mean, that's like beautiful, reading beautiful novels and things that,
Right,
it's keeping someone in it. Like when I read good books, I really have like a picture in my head. It's like
sure.
you can just visualize everything in the room, and so that's been like a really difficult challenge as a songwriter to like also decide how much of that you want. There's beautiful songs that don't have sort of that concrete narrative or that concrete structure, um, that more use words as sort of a side tool.
Right.
The melody and the chords and the vibe is strong enough where it's like the words, you could say whatever you want and people would still catch on to the song.
And do you
So,
find
but
that
I
works
come from,
both ways for you?
yeah, I mean, I come from the background of American folk music and singer songwriter kind of storyteller. So
Yeah,
that's what I love, and
yeah.
those are the things that I really spend a lot of time focusing on lyrics. But recently, I've been writing some new songs, and been trying to kind of branch out a little bit and still have those concrete visions there, but maybe not not as like narratively structured. I think like Already There was one of the last songs I wrote on that record, that and Matador. And Already There is like kind of when I started to get into a little more ethereal
Yeah.
sort of dreamland
Again,
song.
thank you for pointing that one out because I was gonna. I mean, it's like almost 8 minutes long, and
Yeah.
it like once you get to that, it's with track 8 on the record. You're just like, whoa,
Yeah.
where did this come from? You kind of have to brace yourself for it. It's very cool. So, did you think
Thanks.
about whether or not it belonged on this record, or did you realize that you're kind of throwing something in there that was unexpected?
Well, it was interesting because I think that song doesn't feel like 8 minutes to me. It didn't when
Right.
we played it. We tracked everything live, and we just kind of, when we make these records, it's extremely focused. We sit down for like a week or two and just like it's all we do, 24 hours a day. And um, yeah, that tune actually that tune's gotten a lot of radio play, which
Cool.
is crazy to me. That radio is like willing to play an 8.5 minute song, or an eight
DJ's
minute
got to
song.
go to the bathroom, you know.
Yeah, right. I gotta go. But I think like it also was the first song that when I sent it to people that were in the industry, they were like, "This is the one,"
Yeah.
you know.
Uh,
And then they were like, "Can you do a cut for radio?" And I was just like, "No." Like this is the song. This is the body. Like
yeah.
this is if you want it, take it as it is. But I think that like as the record develops, like there's a lot of we played with this awesome keyboard player and synth player. I mean, it's just, this dude was just like he sounds like four different people because he
Right.
can just hop on anything and play these simultaneous parts and yeah. So we really um, we got into a sonic space by the end of the record that kind of was like new. And I feel like we did that on the last record with the tunes like Sore Eyes and When Does It Hit You, which were songs that came in as like straight ahead,
Right.
really country bluegrass songs. And they ended up, with just keys, bass, and drums. There's no guitars.
Mm.
And at the end of at the end of the last recording for Strangers, I was like so jacked on that new sound. And then at the end of this recording, already there and Matador a little bit, but that's definitely more in the wheelhouse. But already
Uh-huh.
there and the longing were kind of like, whoa, this is new territory for me.
I do like the line in Matador, life is a bullfight and I ain't the Matador. It's
Yeah,
fantastic.
that was the seed that got that song going.
Right, right.
I do a lot of creative free writing and just like brain dumps every day, and that somehow that came out, and then the whole song I was just kind of wrote it off that line.
Right, right. Now you mentioned we, so I'm assuming you're talking about your collaborators, Sam Weber and Marshall Wildman. Is that right?
Yeah, Marshall Wild. I've been making this is my third record with them. I met them touring up in British Columbia in Canada, and basically I'll come in with a ton of songs, and then we sit down and we just go nuts. And everyone's so talented. Like Sam plays keys, bass, guitars, and he's my favorite guitarist. If I had a choice of if I could stop playing the guitar and just have Sam do everything, I'd be like, all right, Sam, go for it.
Yeah.
And then Marshall is like phenomenal. He played a lot of keyboards on this record, a lot of Rhodes, and he's just like the most tasteful drummer. That was like when we were in New Zealand this time, I had somebody who would come up to me after the shows and be like, who is that guy? Like he's so
Right.
good. And he's just like, he's a guy that shows up with like a Tums bottle and
Right.
like, you give him a snare drum and he can kill it on anything. So it's a really like dynamic group of dudes that gets
Right.
the music and really like wants to push it further. It's not like people that are in the session just kind of like, oh, I'm doing my part. Oh, you don't like my part? Okay, well that's what I'm doing.
Right.
They're very like these songs like get into whole new worlds with those guys.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you record in a proper studio or kind of a home scenario, or what kind of environment are you making these records?
We've done both, but this one they're usually more on the home side.
Uh-huh.
The Strangers we did in like this huge barn in upstate New York, which was awesome. And then this last record we actually did it at a family property in Sonoma, California. And we kind of just took over the house and made a room. And Sam, once again, he engineers these records, and
Right.
we come from the school of like a room is going to have its sounds, and you either fight those sounds all the time or you lean into them. And so we basically like go in and we set up the room with our instruments and start playing, and then from there we figure out where to mic
Yeah.
and we figure out sort of the aesthetic we want. And then for us it's kind of just plug and play in any space. Like I feel like those guys, we could go into any room and make like a really awesome record that has a very unique sound, because those guys are really,
Yeah.
they're just like to lean in, and that's the best part about working with
Yep.
them.
Because when I started listening to the record, it was like, well, this doesn't sound like your typical kind of singer-songwriter production style thing, acoustic guitars and drums in the background or whatever. There's a different kind of vibe to it. And I couldn't exactly put my finger on it. And I was reading, and apparently there's some kind of weird digital device that you use. I don't know if that's true or not, but maybe that's what I'm
Yeah,
listening to. I
yeah.
have no idea.
We pressed everything through this old drum machine,
Right?
and we actually found You know, that we did this first tune we tracked was Outlaw,
Uh,
and the tune was so awesome. You know, it's just in everyone's wheelhouse of that like kind of Lowell George, like Little Feat, like
yeah, yeah,
classic Americana tune. And we played it and we had a blast, and we were happy with the track that we got. And then we sit down and Sam and I are like, you know, I brought this drum machine with us, and Sam and I are like, how do we start? How do we fuck this up? Like, what can we do to like ruin this song that we just recorded? And we're like, all right, let's start sending things through the drum machine. And we ended up sending the room mics, these really like beautifully recorded, you know,
yeah,
ribbon room mics through this drum machine and like pinned the gain. So it was just like, I mean, it was alive. It was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
it was compressing so hard that it was generating new overtone notes that it was just like, all right, this goes here and this goes here. And it felt like it was like a performance. And honestly, like you know, you tweak the gain knob just like a little bit and it would perform a new version of the song. And that when we heard that, it was just like, whoa, I like this. Like it's
Yeah,
so Outlaw is so crunchy and like, and that's an acoustic guitar, drums, and bass.
really.
Like, yeah, it's so heavy, and it just like it blew my mind. And then that was like the tone. That set the tone for the whole record. We were like, all right,
Sure.
this is it.
Yeah, yeah,
This is how we're doing this record.
that's very cool.
Yeah.
So now you got the record out. You're still in kind of isolation, lockdown over there. Is there any light at the end of the tunnel? Do you have a plan? Is there anything that's going to get you in
Oh,
front of an audience?
I don't know. I heard there's a comet headed towards Earth, so I'm hoping that maybe
Good.
collapses.
Well, that solves that problem.
I don't know, man. Light at the end of the tunnel is a tough. I mean, there's lights on the ceiling, but I don't know about any tunnels.
Yeah.
The my I don't know. It's kind of we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm not holding my breath for anything for the U.S. to get their shit together anytime soon.
Right.
I'm I'm looking at options to leave the country if things continue. I just
Right.
like I can't. It's just it's really hard
This is the
to
place to be.
keep this battle going when there's people like just refusing to wear masks. It's oh my god, these
Yeah.
people are so stupid. And at least the only saving grace, if I may say this, is that when they disregard the medical guidelines, it usually ends in a fatal disease.
Yeah.
So as dark as that
That will
is, it
happen.
really is the only thing that's waking people up. But it's really the only thing that people are like, oh my God, this COVID is real.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
My lungs are now at 60% capacity for the rest of my life. It's like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
you're fucking
That's
stupid,
tough.
you know?
Well,
Yeah.
hopefully you'll keep yourself entertained, maybe be more creative. I don't know between now and whenever it all
Yeah,
comes.
no, I mean, I'm in a awesome spot. You know, I've been able to
Yeah.
quarantine and I've actually been learning piano, which has been awesome
Oh,
for me. It's been an instrument that's eluded me for years, and
yeah.
I'm just practicing a lot and writing, starting to write, and I'll probably have another record or two before
Great. Yeah. Of course.
touring kicks in.
Maybe every
Yeah.
6 months instead of every year.
Yeah, something. I don't know,
Very
man.
cool. Well, hopefully you'll be back down here at some point soon and
Definitely, yeah. If not, maybe
catch you at the wine cellar or wherever it is that you're going to
Finn
play.
and Cherie are supposed to be. They might be my new parents.
Oh, great, great.
I'm gonna adopt a 33-year-old man and see what happens.
Why not? We all need parents.
Yeah.
Very good. Well, thank you very much for taking time to talk to me. I've enjoyed the record. I've enjoyed talking to
Yeah,
you,
no
and
problem.
hopefully we'll get to see you sometime soon.
So I was gonna. I've been doing a couple other radio slots and been playing Outlaw a little bit. So if you're down with that, I can play Outlaw for you.
Absolutely.
Sweet.
You leave me in the cold, you make me run away. You don't stop the store and he can't pay. Run me out of town, put a bounty on my head. But that's you running beside me, laughing at what you said. Every day you call and you tell me I'm good. Said, honey, come back now, you misunderstood. But every attempt is arrested by something new. I kinda suspect that the problem is you. I feel like an outlaw, waiting for a friendly sign to come on back into town and leave me out behind. But you gotta be sure now that you're ready for me. 'Cause if I come in an outlaw, I'll die in those streets. I'm never sure when the hammer is gonna drop. It could be a year from now or on the next block. Listen for a familiar scream, hey, get out of the way. But I turn around too slow, but that's my mistake. I feel like an outlaw, waiting for a friendly sign to come on back into town and leave me out behind. But you gotta be sure now that you're ready for me. 'Cause if I come in an outlaw, I'll die in those streets. If I come in an outlaw, well, I'll die in those streets.
Very good. Bravo. Thank you very much. That was fantastic.
No problem, Marty.